What are you looking at? If I let you out, you gonna stay in the yard, or am I gonna have to chase you to the neighbors? You gonna be good? Alright, we'll try it again. We've already been once today, bud. We're just gonna hang out here in the yard. Good boy. Well, I went to a local feed store, picked up a new electronet fencing, poultry netting. I've had a couple lengths of poultry net that I got, I think, from Premier a long time ago. I probably had it for 8 or 10 years, I guess, and they've worn out. And one of them is at the farm at my in-laws, and he's using it for his chickens. So I didn't anticipate having to get these pullets and meat birds out of their little, sort of what I call the transition coop, which is what I put them in. Still has the light in it. I put them in that when they're so small that they can get through the mesh space on my chicken tractor. But the meat birds, they're growing incredibly fast. These particular birds are supposed to be slower growing than Cornish crosses, and I think they are, and they certainly look healthier than Cornish crosses when they're this size, from what my experience has been. But I think they're so big and so strong that I don't think the laying hens, or the pullets, what are going to be laying hens, are able to keep up. So what I really want to do is open the ramp from the coop so that they can come and go, and then I think that'll give the laying hens, the pullets, an opportunity to get in and out and be a little bit more active, and I can put some food outside that they can access while the meat birds are going to town on the feed that's inside. So all that being the case, putting out poultry netting is definitely a two-handed job, so I'm not sure how successful this is going to be. Just going to do my best, I guess. See what happens. Here's a little trick I learned, and the only reason I know this is because it was listed in the instructions for the just mentioned original fences I purchased years ago. This little trick was not mentioned in the instructions for this new fence, which was made in Germany apparently. However, whether it's listed or not, if you purchase poultry net fencing, when you open your fence, it will be tied with these nylon strings. Do not cut them, and do not throw them away. They're very useful. I'll show you how and why in a minute. Of course, with only one working hand, it's a little difficult to untie knots, so I had to use the point of my trusty knife. Here's where those nylon strings come in handy. You need to secure the beginning and end posts on this netting. That being the case, you need something to secure them to. Sometimes I use a tree. Other times, I actually drive in a cedar fence post. It just depends on the situation and where I'm trying to erect the fence to have the chickens do some work. In this case, since I'm right next to the woodshed, I'm just going to put in a screw and then use the nylon rope with a simple adjustable knot so I can keep the fence post steady and upright while I'm putting tension on the rest of the fence to drive in the remaining pegs. Since I'm not out in a big pasture with multiple lengths of this net fencing to work with, and I want the chickens to be working in a very specific spot, I know where I want my fence to end. And the original walk-around during which I was unwrapping and dropping fence posts is not the last step in placement. Again, I know where I want the fence to end, which means I need to get the last post back to the woodshed, which means I need to drag the rest of the fence along with it. That's much easier and safer when you're out on open ground. On this particular patch of ground at Nights and Weekends Homestead, there are stumps, rocks, branches, and twigs to worry about. That means I need to be very careful and stop pulling if I feel any resistance whatsoever, so I don't rip the strands of this new fence. Once I get the end post back to the woodshed, then it's time to go along the length of the fence and readjust the other posts. I've mowed the path where I thought the fence was going to go, but now that there's a different trajectory, there's a new strip that I need to mow so that the fence doesn't ground out if I choose to electrify it.
You're all right. Just a mower. You're a pretty big man when you're chasing chickens that are confined. Oh, now you're brave again?
Well, time to go get some additional fence posts. This netting is different. Hey, come with me. You're not getting in there anymore. This netting is different from the last stuff I had because it's got a double post system or a double peg system on the bottom of each post, which is far superior to the original 2 lengths that I bought years and years ago. I wasn't 100% certain when I bought this that it was going to have that, because it doesn't say on the outside of the package, but I think that's because pretty much all of them now are standard double peg because they've realized that the single peg does not support the fence post enough with the weight of the netting. That said, I don't have a big pasture to put my birds in, and I'm putting them in weird little places around the homestead to do some clearing for me and keep the weeds down, keep the ticks down, etc. And so I very often have to put a corner in where there isn't already a post in the fence. So what I do there is just grab a fiberglass fence post with a couple insulators on it and make a false corner and just bend around that.
Hey, where do you think you're going? You gotta watch you every second. You stay here.
I knew I had another sprinkler. Awesome, glad to have found that.
Yeah, don't pretend you weren't going the other way. You think you're so clever. Got my eye on you, dude.